we need to have a conversation about my thumbnails. I've noticed over the last few videos my text is getting bigger, my white space has reduced quite considerably, so we're going to have a conversation today about white space and why it's important for your designs and my designs too. Why do we need white space? White space serves as an area around your design to separate logos, texts, and other elements on the page. Without white space, things get garbled, things get really confused, and the design basically looks amateur. Just by adding white space, this can present a more professional look and enhances clear communication within your layout. All too often, people can be urged to cluster too much information onto a layout. So please, when you're designing things, try and make things minimal, try and make things to the point, and try and remove the waffle within your layout. White space is also known as negative space, but can adding white space be too much? So there is the thought that there is active and passive white space. So passive white space is what you tend to use to surround your elements on the page, to give a better flow, to increase legibility, readability, all that sort of thing. But there's also a thing called active white space. And this is a sort of white space you place within a page to possibly give your users a little more sort of effort to go and have a look at things around the page. But obviously overdoing this can impact how people read your page, how people read your layout or design. So you need to be very careful of how you use the white space away from the normal passive use of white space. Try and give you an example. So say if you have a website, so normally with a website, you want it to go, you want people to scroll down it. So at the bottom of the page, you'll have something called the fold, as we call it in the web design industry. And normally your main information is going to be at the top of your website before the fold. This is quite important, not only in mobile, desktop, laptop, all those sorts of devices that you look at a website on, but basically you need people to go below that fold, and that is your hook. You need to hook people in with that section at the top of your website. So using the white space intelligently, a lot of the time you can actually encourage people to delve down further into your content. A lot of the time I use white space minimally there so that you can just see the top of some content at the bottom. That, I suppose, would be a use of passive, no, not passive, active white space, because it's there for a reason. You could literally go from the text, the picture, the color block straight down, but sometimes I will use white space. And when I say white space, it's not necessarily white. It could be any color. It's just space, negative space within the design. Not using white space is the difference between some layouts being noticed and some layouts actually being ignored. One way I used to use white space in the realms of graphics on vehicles is that I used to create a frame, and that frame would be a door or the back of a car or the back of a van, and that frame would be the area I would place my logo, graphic, and I would always create some white space around that so that it basically drew your eye down to the center of that panel and down to the information. If you don't create white space, it's very difficult to capture the intrigue and the interest of the person looking at it. Never think of white space as being wasted space. It is part and parcel of your design and your layout. White space is not a new thing. White space has been around for centuries, from the early days of print and to today's digital design. Back in the early days of print, white space was actually used, but it was used very sparingly because of the cost of paper. But as we went into the 20th century and the modernist movement sort of came about, white space was used hugely to create very, very simple designs which encouraged the massive use of white space. To express the love of white space, nothing says it better than a quote from an early 20th century graphic designer, Massimo Vignelli. He said, almost all the great American graphic designers have used whitespace as the significant silence to better hear their message loud and clear. One of the things I really learned in the exhibition trade and also in graphic design and putting vehicle graphics on is that there is a strange feeling when you look at, say, like a logo on a panel. I was always taught that the white space at the top should be slightly, very, very slightly smaller than the white space at the bottom. So say if you've got, I don't know, 30 points of space at the top, maybe go 35 at the bottom. It just raises that logo or content that you've got above, and it gives that a better feeling, I find. So here's something you can try. This is not about design. This is not about things on pages, things on screens, nothing like that. When you're next hanging some pictures on a wall, take that wall and have a look at it. Rather than placing all those pictures side by side, close together, right up, buttered up, why not try putting space in between? Have a look at the size of the frame you have and think about how much space you want to put in between that and the next object. Or I hung a mirror the other day. I actually measured between the wall, so the wall was this side and the stairs were this side. I measured between the bottom of the stairs and the wall and then found my center point in the middle. So it had an equal space, left and right, between objects. And to me, it looks amazing. Some other people would think to them, why didn't you just put that up against where the stairs are or things like that? I just feel that the flow was correct. I also centered it from the bottom to the top as well, slightly higher than lower. So I'm using white space just in general hanging of pictures and mirrors. Now I hope this brought you value, and I hope it will also encourage you to include lots of white space within your designs in the future. If you like this sort of content, please come back. Please like this video, subscribe, and click on that bell for notifications. I hope to see you in the next videos. If you'd like to see more of my content, please check out these two little boxes here. One is my last video, and the other is about how you create a banner for your YouTube account.